In this video we are going to take a closer look at the November Deathwatch tournament results, with our faction clinging to what could potentially be the last few weeks of access to our beloved Army of Renown, the Kill Team Strike Force. In general, Deathwatch tournament attendance has been nothing short of underwhelming for this month, and as a result, the ones covered in greater detail are practically the only ones with no 30 results. These include the Flames of Autumn 40k Major, Warhammer 40k Match Play Event, Into the Hellstorm 10, as well as the Alliance Open Super Major. Over the course of the video, we will go through all the relevant results and lists in an attempt to find out whether the Deathwatch can continue to spite the underwhelming Space Marine win rates shown in the recent MetaWatch articles. For the final part, I will offer my personal conclusions and a quick wrap up.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video.
Diving right into the tournament results, first we have the Flames of Autumn 40k Major, an event featuring 51 players over 6 rounds. Here we have a single Deathwatch player, Mark Hurtle, going for 2, ending up on rank 8, playing the Army of Renown. His matchups were as following. First 3 rounds all wins against Craft Worlds, Chaos Space Marines and Tau, followed by a round 4 loss against Chaos Space Marines, round 5 a win against Creations of Bile, and then round 6 another loss against the Sisters of Battle. Looking at his list, he brought along the classic HQ trio of the Primaris Chaplain on bike with the Beacon, the Primaris Librarian and the Watchmaster. What stands out here is that he upgraded the Librarian to a Chief Librarian for access to the 3rd decent power Mantle of Shadow, as well as giving him the paragon of their chapter Ultramarines Warlord trait. For troops, he then rocked 4 Proteus kill teams, 2 of which were Costello-style kill teams, the 3rd packed Cyclone missile launcher Terminators and a lot of combi plasma, and the 4th had the classic infantry bikes with 3 veteran bikers and 2 vanvets. To round the list up, he brought along a Spectrus kill team with 5 Reavers, the cheapest way to run it if you are primarily looking to just screen out your backfield for hopefully scoring the long Vigil secondary. Overall, nothing out of the ordinary, but nonetheless great to see this list doing well against Chaos Space Marines among other things. Moving on to the second tournament, the Warhammer 40k Match Play event, featuring 72 players over 5 rounds. Here we have 2 Deathwatch players, with Andy Rossdale going 3-2, ending up on rank 22, surprising us with a non-Army of Renown list. His matchups were as following. Round 1 and 2 wins against Custodes and Gene Stealer cults, followed by 2 losses against Chaos Demons and Deathmech. The 5th and final round was then another win against Archangels. Looking at his list, for HQs, he played a captain on bike with a Thunderhammer, Rites of War and the Tome of Ictoclades, as well as the Indomitus Lieutenant equipped with the Dominus Sieges, which is one of the ways to run this setup outside of bringing along a company champion. For troops, contrary to most Deathwatch meta lists, these were pretty basic with just a default squad of Incursors and 2 squads of Intercessors. For elites, he brought along triple Redemptor Dreadnoughts. This is where that Dominus Sieges comes into play, as well as a squad of Blade Guard veterans, and 2 squads of Vanvets with mostly Claw's Chainsword, and a single Thunderhammer on the Sarge. To round the list up, he got a single squad of Plasma Inceptors and 2 squads of Eradicators. Lack of kill teams aside, this list has very little upset, and as such bringing along the Rites of War is pretty much mandatory. Overall, while he went for decent competitive picks outside of kill teams, I'm not particularly fond of the double Intercessors to pay the troops tax, and while I am aware that this was most likely due to points constraints, personally I would have simply downgraded the Thunderhammer of the captain to allow for some more Phobos units instead. Nonetheless, certainly something to take inspiration from when looking into building more classic Deathwatch lists once more. As a side note, the second Deathwatch player got pretty much destroyed playing the tournament winning list by Mikael Klangeby, ending up on rank 64, going 1-4. Losses were against Eldari, Demons, Dark Angels and Genestealer cults. Ultimately, it is of course always a combination of list, pilot and matchups, but still worth pointing out that the non-AOR list had a much greater success here. Moving on to the third tournament, into the Hellstorm 10, an event featuring 49 players over 6 rounds. Here we have a single Deathwatch player, Kevin Cochrane, going 3-1-2, ending up on rank 18 playing the Army of Renown. His matchups were as following. Round 1 a win against Necrons, Round 2 a win against World Eaters, Round 3 a loss against Blood Angels, Round 4 a win against Thousand Suns, Round 5 a loss against Emperor's Children, and then Round 6 a draw against Imperial Guard. Looking at his list, for HQs, he ran a foot-slogging Chaplain upgraded to a Master of Sanctity carrying the Tomb, as well as a Watchmaster. On the ladder, he went wild with the Spear of the First Witch Hill, Paragon of their Chapter Salamanders, as well as the AOR exclusive Xenos Pain, turning him into a Slapmaster rather than a Watchmaster for sure. For troops, he then rocked a grand total of 6 Proteus kill teams, 4 of which were Costello-style kill teams, and the other 2 packed frag cannons. On these latter 2, he also put the Aquila specialisms. Overall, a pretty interesting list going for max kill teams, and the Slapmaster doing more than just handing out the sweet rerolls. Moving on to the fourth and final tournament, the Alliance Open Super Major, an event featuring 132 players over 7 rounds. Here we have Jan Cohen van der Lee playing the Deathwatch Army of Renown, going 5-2, ending up on rank 20. His matchups were as following. Round 1 a loss against Sisters, Round 2 a win against Iron Hands, Round 3 a loss against Nits, followed by 4 wins against Admech, another Iron Hands player rocking a full 3 Astrea super heavy tanks, what the hell mate, and 10 Emperor's Children and Thousand Suns. Looking at his list, for HQs, he brought the long minimalistic librarian, as well as a Primaris Chaplain on bike with the Beacon and Chalice. For troops, he brought the classic Indomitor kill team with Boltstorm Aggressors and a single Inceptor, 3 Klangeby-style Proteus kill teams, and perhaps a bit surprisingly, double Spectres kill teams, one of which has the 4 Eliminators and 1 Incursor combo we commonly see in competitive lists, and the other one was basically just the basic 5 Infiltrators, the price to pay when trying to sneak a few more bodies into an AOR list. Last but not least, he also had a basic company champion, which is pretty good value for his points. As I have argued on multiple occasions before, when going light on HQs, both the Chaplain and Librarian take preference over the hit rerolls from a Captain or Watchmaster, and this is basically what he did with his list, allowing him to squeeze in a couple more bodies. Big fan of Infiltrators myself and points allow, certainly something that will be more of an option again in case the Army of Renown will be discontinued. Overall, interesting list and congratulations on the great result. All in all, with these latest tournament results in mind, my personal takeaways are as following. As we have already seen in the previous few months, while there are generally a lot of bigger events going on, Space Marine attendance is much lower than it used to be, certainly an effect of the poor performance of the faction as a whole, and this can also be felt for the Deathwatch, which has always been a niche pick to begin with. Over the course of 9th edition, there were only 2 times when Deathwatch has seen a brief increase in numbers, and both of these have been prior to the introduction of the Army of Renown. With January 2023 just around the corner, and with the fate of the Army of Renown unknown, it is highly unlikely that we will see any major increase in Deathwatch players anytime soon. Among the different Space Marine chapters, Blood Angels are the current go-to for meta chasers, as much as we can still call them that when still sticking to Space Marines in the first place, and Dark Angels and Space Wolves have a huge loyal fan base rather than being all that great to begin with, though their unique rules are still solid. For Deathwatch in particular, there has been little innovation in regard to Army of Renown lists. I guess we will enjoy them to the bitter end, with our established kill team combinations that have served us well these past few months. Nonetheless, both frag cannons and plasma and Proteus kill teams are seeing an increase in play, and Kevin Cochrane has given us his very own version of a Slapmaster for those looking into running him a bit more fighty over just handing out rerolls. As with everything in Warzone Nephilim, this is of course a heavy drain on starting CP, and I am really hoping that GW will be looking into changing this in the next chapter approved mission pack. For Space Marines in particular, with all their amazing relics and warlord traits, this would go a long way. As I have mentioned on several occasions, much is unknown at this point, and with only 1 month in the current rule set left to go, I would just sit tight and not commit to anything major in terms of models until the full January changes are out. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at Deathwatch November tournament results, including the Flames of Autumn 40k Major, Warhammer 40k Match Play event, into the Hellstorm 10, as well as the Alliance Open Super Major. Deathwatch tournament attendance has been pretty low overall, and we have seen no major breakthroughs. As it currently stands, there is the very real chance that we have seen the peak of Deathwatch in 9th edition with the combination of the Army of Renown and the Warzone Nephilim rules set, which led to 3 tournament wins within a comparably short time span. Nonetheless, both Mark Hurtle and Sean Con van der Lee did well with AOR lists rocking a lot of Proteus kill teams, which remained a staple of successful competitive Deathwatch lists. What further stands out is Andy Rusdale going 3-2 with a non-AOR list that is not very Deathwatch at first glance. After all, he has no kill teams, but the list is making good use of what is being considered strong Space Marine picks that also work well in the Deathwatch, such as Bladeguard veterans or Eradicator squads. All in all, time to enjoy the AOR while it still lasts, and hoping for better times in January and beyond. So that's it for the Deathwatch November tournament results and the absence of any major Deathwatch attendance. What do you guys think about these particular lists and results? And what do you think GW has in store for us this coming year? Any changes you're planning for your own lists? Or any Christmas purchases you're looking into? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.